Are you trying to build a brand and don't know where to start? Let me help you out. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tatiana and I want to take you behind the scenes of how to actually go about branding your business. I recently went through a rebrand myself and I rebranded my Tatiana Marie art page into Self-C, which is now centered around self-care, positivity, and empowerment. Now, the number one mistake that most people do when they go about branding is that they think that branding is just a logo. The brand is so much more than that. Basically, a brand is about telling the story of your company and evoking some kind of a feeling or emotion out of your customers. So in order to do that, there's so much more that goes into it than just a logo. So the first thing you want to do is you want to understand your aesthetic. And I know you're probably tired of hearing that word, trust me, I am too, but honestly, it sums it up the best. So what I mean by this is simply go onto Pinterest or go online and look up other inspirational pictures. This could be other brands, this could be other items that will fit with your theme, pictures that match your style and the vibe that you're trying to go for. In other words, are you trying to go for a modern look that has a lot of clean edges, very geometric, or are you trying to go for something that's very minimalist and clean? Alternatively, are you looking for something that's super intricate, very detailed, something along those lines? By creating a mood board, you're basically setting the tone for the rest of the elements that you have to include in your brand. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're planning on designing this yourself or you're planning on hiring someone else, having these inspirational pictures is really gonna help you or the designer understand the direction you wanna head in. So these are the pictures I used for Self-C. I was going for a very clean and minimalistic kind of look. So these were the pictures that I really liked that I thought would match my aesthetic. And the second thing you wanna do that's gonna help you tell your story is choose a color palette. I would limit it to probably about 5 colors at the most, but this color combination is really gonna help create an identity for your brand. This is a lot what colleges do. Oftentimes we associate certain colors with certain universities and it's a very effective method. So you wanna do the same. Now, one thing to keep in mind is different colors will evoke different emotions from your customers, so make sure you're picking the colors that make sense. For help with this, you can look up the psychology of color. For instance, a lot of blues tend to be associated with trust and security, whereas a lot of yellows tend to be associated with inspiring, positive energy. So by keeping this in mind, you can more effectively communicate with your customers. Going along with this, you also want to decide, are you trying to be a fun, groovy kind of company? In that case, you would use a lot of really bright, vivid, colorful colors. Or are you trying to be more earthy and natural? You're gonna be using a lot of neutrals and browns. If you're having trouble choosing your color palettes, don't fret. Maybe use some of the aesthetic photos that you found in step 1. And if you have Procreate, then you can actually drag those photos into Procreate and it will create a color palette based off of the colors that are already in that photo. And from there, you can pick and choose a couple of the colors that you actually want to use throughout your brand. So for my brand, Self-C, I actually chose about 4 different colors, 4 or 5 colors. I chose a peachy color, a beige color, a white, and then a stronger orange. And those are the colors that I'm going with and using throughout my brand. The third one is the step that a lot of people like to jump to first, and that is creating a logo. Now, I know this part can be a lot of fun and also the most time consuming. However, we do have to do the other things in order to create an appropriate logo. So whether or not you are creating the logo, something that you do want to ask for and consider is that you have a versatile logo. In other words, what I mean by that is you want to have a logo that comes in many different shapes and formats so that you can easily grab one depending on what you're being asked for. For instance, you want one that will be easily readable in a black and white format. You also want one that's just vertical, another one that's just horizontal, and another one that's really small for small spaces. Maybe you want a really big one as well as a medium-sized one for different spaces as well. So having this variety is going to ensure that your logo is consistent on all platforms, as well as when you go to hire someone to control your social media or your branding, they will know directly where to go to get the information that they need without confusing your audience because of the consistency you are creating with your brand. I'll use my branding again for an example. For Self-C, I have the vertical version, the horizontal version, and a really small version, as well as other variations that I don't feel the need to show. And I mean, if you don't believe me, Disney has also done it. I'll put that on the screen for you to see as well, because you never know in which format you're gonna need that logo. So once you've chosen your logo, the next thing you wanna do that is oftentimes overlooked is picking fonts or typefaces that you wanna use consistently throughout your brand. Because again, the more consistent we are, the more of an identity we are creating, and therefore the more memorable our brand is, which is what we want. So if I'm honest, fonts and typefaces are not my forte, but what you want to do is you want to pick a typeface or a font that's going to be used for your header. Oftentimes this is going to be the same one that you use for your logo. And then you want to use one for your subheader, and then again, pick another one for the body of your text. This is oftentimes going to be the font or typeface that you're going to be using when you are creating your descriptions, when you are writing some kind of body text for like a magazine, let's say. If you're not well versed in fonts and typefaces, your best bet is to pick a single typeface and then use different fonts of that. In other words, you're going to use different weights. So like, let's say we choose Helvetica, for instance. We can use the bold version for the header, and then we could use like the light or the regular version for your body of text. This way you're guaranteed that it's going to be uniform. But if you're more into mixing different typefaces, one person I like to look at a lot for font inspiration is Kel Lauren. I think she has about 2 videos or so. She's a really great graphic designer, and she talks about all her favorite fonts that you can download for free using Adobe's Creative Cloud. Which leads me to my next point that I do really want to bring up is when you are choosing fonts and typefaces, make sure you're using ones that you have commercial license for. Because now that you are building a brand and a business, you aren't using this stuff for personal use anymore, and you do need a license. So just be wary of that and don't just download random fonts off the internet. Now that we've got the basic elements down, the next thing we want to do to continue telling our story is to create templates for our Instagram as well as for our website. Basically, we want our website to match our Instagram and our Instagram to match our website as best as possible to make it look super cohesive and super professional as well. The more that they match, the more the customers will instill their trust in you. So what do I mean by this? By this, I'm just saying we're going to be using the aesthetic we chose in step 1 to create posts in that style. Secondly, we're going to use the color palette that we already chose in step 2, and we're going to be repeating these colors on our Instagram page. Therefore, these may be our main background colors, or these may be our text colors, or some combination of the two. Then we're going to be using the fonts that we also just chose in step 4 and repeat that throughout our Instagram and our website. By creating Instagram templates, you're making it so much easier for future hires or contractors to do the social media work for you and without having to come up to you all the time and ask you for your opinion, because it's already laid out there for them and you're going to be confident that everything is going to look cohesive and put together. If we look at the Instagram for self-see, I basically stuck to my color palette of 4 different colors. I used the same typeface over and over again, and I also made sure that the style of editing for my pictures was similar throughout. This way when I uploaded reels or other content, it would still match into my feed. So this is all things to keep in mind and then carry over these same principles into your website. And the last thing that's really going to tie everything together is to decide on what your brand's voice is going to be. And again, we're going to be consistent with it. This is essentially just how you're going to be talking to your audience. This is going to be most prevalent probably in your Instagram captions or whatever social media platform you're using, as well as in your marketing for your specific brand. In other words, this is where you're going to decide, do you want to keep a very professional tone, very straightforward and factual, or do you want it to be like loose and friendly? It's more of a relaxed conversation with a friend. This is also where you should decide if you're going to be okay with cursing or if you're going to keep it very clean and PG. This is something that your customers will really appreciate because they'll get to know you as a brand and know exactly what to expect from you. This also helps create that connection and honestly just bring your brand to life. By putting all of these together in some kind of a Google Doc or a pamphlet, you're able to keep it, preserve it, and use it whenever you hire someone else to give them a better idea of what your brand is and how to best keep it consistent. I hope that these tips help you in some manner, and if you're up for it, let me know what your brand is down below so I can check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye!